Your heart is generating an electromagnetic field right now, 5,000 times stronger than your brain. It extends 8 feet from your body. Everyone inside that radius is already affected. This isn't a spiritual metaphor. The drain is electromagnetic, chemical, and neurological, happening simultaneously below your awareness before you have a chance to stop it. The HeartMath Institute documented this in 1991. 2 people within 10 feet, the stronger field entrains the weaker. Your heart's field determines whether you drain or get drained. Every draining interaction fires 4 separate biological systems simultaneously: electromagnetic, hormonal, neurological, autonomic. This isn't one mechanism, it's a coordinated biological event triggered by proximity.
Think about the last time you left a conversation exhausted. Nothing physical happened. You sat still, and yet your body behaved like it ran a mile. That's not personality, that's physics.
Egyptian priests performed a daily ritual they called feeding the Ka, their word for the body's energy double. They weren't being poetic, they were solving the exact problem you're living right now. Energy vampire is a 20th century invention. The phrase first appears in pop psychology in the 1980s. The phenomenon it describes is documented in primary sources from 2375 BCE. In 1991, HeartMath researchers measured something that wasn't supposed to exist: a human electromagnetic field strong enough to be detected by another person's body 8 feet away. They weren't touching, they weren't speaking. The entrainment happened through field proximity alone. One cardiac rhythm began synchronizing with the other, automatically, unconsciously, within 60 seconds. Then a 2013 study found something worse. Cortisol, the stress hormone, transfers between people chemically through scent. 95 of 211 subjects absorbed a stranger's stress within 15 minutes. And before either mechanism fires, the mirror neurons already activated. Your nervous system ran the other person's emotional state through your own body. You felt their stress as your stress. 3 simultaneous biological systems, all triggered by one conversation: electromagnetic, chemical, neurological. Your chronic afternoon exhaustion has a mechanism. You've been told it's stress. It's not only stress. The Corpus Hermeticum, written in Alexandria around 200 CE, calls it pneuma, vital breath, the medium connecting soul to body and body to other bodies in a continuous field. Every chronically drained person has measurably lower vagal tone. The vagus nerve is the body's social scanner. It detects threat before conscious awareness. Low tone means no filter. Every field penetrates. The Kybalion, 1908, Chapter 4, Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Applied interpersonally, 2 vibrating systems in proximity will interact. The lower frequency pulls toward equilibrium. That's not metaphor, that's physics. Corpus Hermeticum, Tractate 12. Hermes says the heavy-minded soul, one dominated by material passion, spreads its pneuma like a contagion. Proximity is the transmission vector. The ancients had a word for it. HeartMath found that coherent heart rhythms measured as heart rate variability improve the HRV of people nearby. Incoherent rhythms degrade it. The directionality is real, measurable, repeatable, published. In the vibration episode, we established that everything in existence operates at a measurable frequency. Today, we find out exactly what that means for your blood chemistry after lunch meetings. Emotional contagion research, Hatfield, Cacioppo, Rapson, 1993, confirmed emotional synchronization is automatic, pre-conscious, and begins before the verbal content of the conversation even registers. Egyptian daily temple protocol required priests to perform Ka protection rituals before conducting any interaction involving the public. Their records describe the unshielded Ka as permeable, open to unwanted energetic contact. Egyptian Heka, the concept of vital force, was explicitly documented as transferable between persons, objects, and deities. The Book of the Dead specifies the mechanism. It requires intent. It requires proximity. Stephen Porges' Polyvagal Theory, 2011, the nervous system runs a constant background scan called neuroception, assessing every social interaction for safety or threat milliseconds before conscious thought. This is the detection system. Here's what the Corpus Hermeticum never fully resolves. Does energy drain require the drainer's conscious intent, or does an incoherent field deplete automatically, regardless of the other person's awareness? Emerald Tablet, Newton's 1680 translation, as above, so below, as within, so without. If the internal state generates an external field, which HeartMath confirmed, then every internal state is also an external broadcast. Your heart's toroidal field is not a static object. It pulses, it expands, it reads the field it contacts and restructures its own coherence pattern in response, continuously, automatically, without rest. 1945, Egyptian farmers discover sealed jars near Nag Hammadi. Inside, 52 Hermetic and Gnostic texts predating the Kybalion by 1700 years. They described pneumatic exchange between souls in nearly identical language. The Kybalion, 1908, presented itself as ancient Hermetic wisdom. Scholars have since confirmed it's largely New Thought movement philosophy. The actual mechanism of pneumatic exchange lives in the Corpus Hermeticum, not the Kybalion. Egyptian priests didn't just name the Ka problem, they built technology around it. The Jed Pillar amulet carried daily was specifically described as a spine of energetic stability, a literal boundary tool. HeartMath's data found this: low coherent individuals don't just feel bad, their disordered field actively disrupts coherent fields in proximity. The more coherent you are, the more vulnerable you become to their disruption. The heart, not the brain, the heart is the primary electromagnetic broadcaster, 5,000 times stronger. The ancient Egyptians placed the vital force, the Ib, specifically in the heart. Now we know why. So, the answer seems clear. Identify the draining people. Remove them from your environment. Create distance. Protect your field through exclusion. Simple, elegant, and, as the primary sources will tell us, wrong. HeartMath found the entrainment can happen at distance through video transmission. The field interaction occurs through the auditory and visual nervous system pathways. Physical removal is not the protection mechanism. Distance failed. Corpus Hermeticum, Tractate 12, says it directly. The heavy pneuma spreads as a contagion, regardless of the sufferer's intent. Distance is not the variable. Field state, your own coherence, is the variable. And even if distance worked, most draining interactions aren't optional. Your manager, your family member, the client, the colleague. The Hermetic tradition was never built for avoidance. It was built for engagement with protection. The coherent field is stronger. But coherence is not permanent. It fluctuates. A single high-stress interaction can drop your HRV coherence within 60 seconds, even if you started from a protected state. The belief you must release is that perpetual openness is a virtue. The Corpus Hermeticum says an unguarded pneuma is not compassion. It is an open door, and doors have two sides. Here's what's been running in the background this entire investigation: the Egyptian Ka protection ritual. We described it as historical context. It isn't context. It's the answer that HeartMath independently rediscovered. The Egyptian Ka feeding ritual and the HeartMath coherence protocol are the same system: deliberate generation of a high-amplitude coherent pulse from the primary electromagnetic emitter, the heart. 4,000 years apart, identical. Egyptian priests spent 30 minutes each morning feeding the Ka, deliberately activating the heart's high coherence state. HeartMath's coherence technique achieves the same physiological state in 60 seconds. Same target, same organ, same result. Ka, pneuma, toroidal field, HRV coherence, the principle of vibration. 5 names, 4,000 years of independent discovery, one mechanism, one organ, one protection system that works in 60 seconds. The same mechanism that makes your heart 5,000 times stronger than your brain is the mechanism that protects your field. The ancient system knew exactly which organ to train. So does the modern science. Egyptian temple records describe the Ka, the Ka house, a dedicated space for daily Ka strengthening, ritual boundary markings at every threshold. They were designing architectural coherence maintenance systems before modern neuroscience existed. The system that's been draining you was named, mapped, and solved 4,000 years ago. No one told you because the solution was classified as religious ritual, not medical technology. That ends today. The mechanism is documented, the ancient solution is validated, the modern protocol exists. What no one has assembled until now is the exact 3-step practice that bridges the Hermetic system to your daily life. The aura is not a spiritual concept you accept on faith. It is a multi-layer biological broadcast system operating on 4 simultaneous channels. It was never invisible, we just lacked the instruments to measure it. The Egyptian artists depicted the Ka as extending beyond the physical body, a second form, visible only in its effects. Their iconography was technically accurate. They were drawing the electromagnetic field before we could measure it. People around you are receiving your broadcast right now, whether you consent or not. Your current emotional state is their external environment. This is not a metaphor. This is a radio frequency. You are always transmitting. Egyptian priests aligned to Ma'at, the principle of cosmic order, before every interaction. Modern translation, they entrained their heart field to coherence before broadcasting into another person's field. Protocol, not ritual.
Every time you felt inexplicably exhausted after a conversation, your body was giving you data. Ancient Hermetics built entire systems around that data. We called it a mood. It was a bioelectric event.
Egyptian temple records describe the daily schedule: Ka strengthening at dawn, amulet placement before threshold crossing, Ma'at alignment before encounters. They were running a daily coherence maintenance protocol. We don't have an equivalent ritual yet. HeartMath's Global Coherence Initiative measured this. Individual heart coherence affects the Earth's geomagnetic field. The emerald tablets, as above, so below, operates at planetary scale. Personal coherence is not a private act. The paradigm says your field is always transmitting, always interacting, always either protecting or depleting the people around you. That's not a spiritual responsibility, that's a biological one, and it requires a daily practice. Egyptian priests had a 3-phase morning protocol. HeartMath has a 3-step coherence technique. They describe the same sequence. Here is the assembled system, the one that works in 60 seconds before any interaction. Step 1. Heart-focused breathing, 60 seconds. Breathe through the chest, not the belly. Imagine each breath entering and leaving through the heart center. HeartMath calls this heart focus. Egyptian priests called it Ka attention. Step 2. Activated positive emotional recall. Call up a genuine memory of appreciation, care, or love. HeartMath research confirmed this specific emotional activation generates maximum heart rate variability coherence. Ancient priests called this heart-truth alignment, Ma'at. Step 3. Intentional field state holding. State clearly internally, I maintain coherence through this interaction. Egyptian priests spoke the Jed invocation at every threshold crossing. The function is identical. anchoring the coherent field before exposure. 60 seconds, heart focus, positive emotion recall, field intention statement. Run this before every high-stakes interaction. Your field determines the outcome before a single word is spoken. The ancients knew, now you do too. HeartMath documented HRV coherence shift within 60 seconds of protocol application. The bioelectric field restructures, the cortisol response pathway closes, the vagal tone improves. This is not a belief system, these are measurements. The energy vampire is usually not a predator. They are a person with collapsed field coherence, unconsciously seeking regulation through proximity to someone more coherent. The Corpus Hermeticum calls this the heavy pneuma. It is not malice, it is deficiency. The Corpus Hermeticum says all pneuma flows from the one. If energy is ultimately unified, can it be yours to protect? Does auric defense contradict Hermetic philosophy? That question has not been answered by anyone. The Egyptian Ka was a dedicated space. You don't need that. You need 60 seconds and a threshold. Any door, any elevator, any transition point before a high-stakes interaction. The practice is portable. Can a person live this principle fully, or does complete auric integrity require a solitude that defeats the purpose of being human? The Corpus Hermeticum doesn't answer. The Egyptian priests lived in temples. We don't. The ancient knowledge says this: a coherent field doesn't just protect the individual who carries it, it elevates the field environment of everyone in proximity. The priest doesn't just survive the encounter, the priest changes it. The mechanism is real, the protection is real. The ancients mapped it 4,000 years before the instruments existed to measure it. The only variable that was always missing was whether modern humans would use the system.
Every device in your pocket generates its own electromagnetic field. Continuous, unmodulated, 24-hour entrainment.
The Ka rituals were never designed for this. The Hermetic texts never anticipated it, and no one has solved it yet. Shielding your aura matters, but if internal masculine and feminine energies are imbalanced, your shield is mathematically weak. Click the video on screen, what ancient texts actually say about mental gender.